Welcome everybody to Too Legit to Crit, a tabletop role-playing podcast hosted by the people who act last in initiative.
Oh, that's not fair. That one got me because it's true.
Well, yeah.
I was literally saying, like, he's not going to get me this week. He's not going to get me this week. And then you said something that was just too true.
To be honest, I kind of stumbled there for a minute because I got about 3 of these written down. It was like, and at the last minute, it was like, shit, which one am I doing?
Well, you succeeded. You got me.
So let me cross that one off for perpetuity. I've still got, how many have I got? 1, 2, 3, 4 already.
Oh my god.
Prepared.
I'm going to have at least 1 week where you don't break me in the intro.
Well, you can certainly try. You can certainly try. Right, so my name is John Santana.
And I am still Justin.
Still Justin,
I am indeed. Yeah.
All right. I've been keeping good, buddy.
I've been good, dude. I've just been working a lot. And yeah, kind of trying to sort out some stuff. I've had a lot of ideas recently, and I've been trying to kind of put pen to paper. Nothing quite ready to share yet, but there is stuff in the pipeline, which I'm excited about.
You like stuff. We do like
stuff. Stuff is good.
Stuff is always good.
And yeah, so that's primarily what I've been doing. Is I was chatting to a friend of ours, their son, because he's in a D&D group at his school. They've got like an after-school club for like tabletop games and that sort of thing. And they're basically it's a really cool system actually. They take it in turns to DM. So they kind of like go in like a rotation. Yeah. So they all get a little bit of experience doing bits and pieces, and kind of I was sitting with him chatting about it. And it was kind of like he was kind of giving me some ideas that he's done. And some of them I was like, oh, that's really cool. But if I tweaked it slightly, I could use that. You know, the age-old yoink and twist that DMs do to each other's content.
No, they get yoink and twist.
And then me and him sat down and we came up with a really, really frustrating series of puzzle rooms for players, which will be a lot of fun once I've put pen to paper on how that will actually work. But the concept is there and it's really, really funny.
I always try to stay away from puzzle rooms because I always end up getting myself so frustrated at what I've created, and then the players will come along, and my worst nightmare is spending hours designing a puzzle, then all of a sudden
one of them just goes, "Oh, it's 7."
Oh yes, yeah, this is easy, and it's like, oh, fuck off.
Well, you see, that's where me having the physical models and stuff on my table comes in handy, because what I tend to do is if I've built a puzzle room, I'll actually build the puzzle as a terrain piece, so they actually have to solve it in like for realsies. Like they have to put things in, like using like electronics and sensors and stuff, or like magnets and sensors and electronics. You can actually have it like interact. So they put like a piece that they got in a different room on the shelf that it's meant to go on, and then it like the magnet in it triggers, like completes the circuit and like turns on a light or whatever. You know, like there's loads of different things, but like yeah. So I actually like physically make the puzzle for them to solve. So it kind of adds that extra layer, I think.
Oh, that's great. It just seems like that is far too much work for me to put into it. Yeah, narrative. I've got my electronics qualifications. I'm sure I could do plenty of shit.
You absolutely could.
I cannot be fucked.
But you had some very exciting stuff over the weekend. So how was that?
It was really good. We played a Pathfinder Society special, where it ended up 3 tables of ours ended up playing as the same scenario.
Yes.
I liked it. I liked the way it came together. The scenario itself could have been a bit better, to be fair, but it did kind of work in the sense of, right, we've got these many victories, let's carry on, and essentially that's how it works. You accumulate victories, and then that has an overall effect. It was probably made easier at my table because we had someone who was rolling absolute fucking rocks. Just
So the
everything.
opposite of me.
Yeah. The big fucking sort of end encounter came about, and the major threat of that encounter didn't even last a round.
Wow.
It was like, yeah, this guy was playing a fighter, and she just ran in and just absolutely totaled it.
That's the dream.
But after that, it was like, okay, so we've finished. Can we like do more to kind of up our successes? Yeah, fine. We did another version, like nice, threw in some more creatures, but it was good. It was also the first time I'd completely relied on Obsidian.
Yeah.
That's to kind of transferred the entire sort of scenario onto Obsidian. I had Obsidian as my rules sort of lookup. All my encounters were on there, all the stat blocks. So yeah, it was good. It was good to kind of use Obsidian for more than what I've been using it. So it was a lot of fun, man.
Oh, that's awesome, dude. I'm glad you had fun, and I know for a fact that somebody else had fun because I got a message from somebody there, but we'll get to that later on.
Really?
I did indeed. I got a message. So I mentioned before we started recording that I've got something to turn the tables on you when we go to Couch's Corner later.
Has somebody betrayed?
Somebody has not only betrayed you; they call you out by name. I will not call them out by name, but they've sent in a question and wanted to turn the tables on you and let me have access to the question and not you.
I'm not entirely sure I'm 100% comfortable with it.
I am, because I am in a position of power for a change on this recording, and I like it. I understand why you don't let me read the questions.
Yeah, I'm a bit uncomfortable with this. I'm not gonna lie. It's I'm not used to being powerless.
Well,
but
speaking of powerless,
carry on.
Did you see that little segue there?
That was a good segue.
We mentioned in a previous recording about the Magic the Gathering One Ring card.
We did.
It's been found and graded.
Has it?
It has indeed. The person who found it has requested to remain anonymous, so we don't know who's found it for obvious reasons. I mean, there was a $2 million dollar bounty on the card, for crying out loud.
Was that was that the highest one?
That was the highest. That was the highest one that came out. Yeah, from the Spanish.
The Gremio de Dragones.
I'll let you say it, being a Spanish person yourself.
There you go.
And they threw in.
Gremio de Dragones.
Well, no, it wasn't just 2 million. Let's not forget they threw in something on top.
A home cut paella.
Exactly. So we don't know whether that offer's been taken up or not. All we know is that the card has been found. It's been sent in for grading by PSA. It was graded a mint 9. So it didn't get 10, even though it's a brand new card. There's a lot of speculation on why. Because it's foil, sometimes they start curling in the packaging still. So it could just be from that. We don't really know. But we do know it's been found, it's been graded. So everyone, you can stop spending $500 a pack to buy those.
Or the person blew his load when he opened it.
Oh, absolutely. Could you imagine sitting at home, opening Magic the Gathering cards, and you pull a card that's been got a $2 million bounty on it?
That for me would be one of those situations where I would be completely numb to it.
Yeah.
Because I just sit there. I just sit there and stare at it for a couple of hours.
You've got to wonder how long he did just sit there going, no way. No. What?
Yeah, and I'd go back and I'd check the website again. So 2 million. Okay.
Okay.
Right.
I got some phone calls to make. I can confirm it was neither one of us.
No, I'm the fact that I'm still here right now.
The fact that we are sitting here recording this means it was not us. Because if I'd pulled that card, I'd be off spending $2 million. I would not be here recording.
No, I wouldn't be here recording. I'd just pay somebody to record for me.
There would be new hosts of the show. We would not be here anymore.
It would just be some random Spanish dude.
The production would go up massively.
Whoa! Let's not go crazy.
Well, no, because we could hire people to edit for us. We wouldn't have to do the editing.
It'd be some random Spanish dude going, "Hello, my name is John."
So exactly the same as now.
Pretty much, yeah. Just it's hard to find a Spaniard with a Northern English accent.
It's true. It's very difficult. I've tried.
So was I not enough for you?
No.
No.
But yeah, so that's a little, like I said, a little bit disappointing because it's found the hunt is over, so there's no more. Will it be found? Question. It's out there now.
What I think the funniest thing ever would have been was if Wizards, and come on, let's be honest, they've got no scruples, so it would be realistic for them to just kind of go, yeah, we've got this card. It's one of a kind, and then just didn't put it out there.
Oh, dude, like that's like the McDonald's Monopoly stuff. I'm convinced they don't put out the one that's got like the 500 grand or whatever, like the top prize one. I'm convinced they don't put out the other one.
Just imagine people buying these packs for $500 a piece.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you were close. You were close.
Oh, you were so close, my guy. Next pack?
There's not many left.
It's got to be in the next pack, surely. And like everyone's just sitting there going like, well, somebody must have just pulled it and not known what they had.
That would be hilarious. That
for
me would be the funniest thing ever.
Dude, there's got to be like super rare cards like that where that's happened. Like I think wasn't there there was a Pokemon card back in the day, like way back when, right? When Pokemon cards were first a thing. They had like an ancient Mew card they only made like 7 of in the world before they did like a promo one when the 2000 film came out.
I've not heard that.
And I just wonder like how many people opened that card, thought it was just a promo card, and binned it. You've got to wonder because it didn't look like any other Pokemon card that existed ever. So you would be right in assuming, like looking at it, there's just some kind of promo.
Yeah, I mean, unless you kind of, you follow those things closely. I think years ago it was probably a lot easier because the
internet wasn't as big,
and all that.
Now, I guess you'd be pretty hard to come by because, especially with those packs costing like $500 for 12 packs, right? Nobody who's like a casual collector is buying those.
Yeah, that's insanity. Yeah. Just that price tag alone.
Oh, I mean, $500 for 12 packs and you pull a $2 million card, worth it.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's not how that economy necessarily works.
It's exactly how it works, John. Don't question it.
But yeah, congratulations to whoever found it.
Indeed.
I hope you spend all of that $2 million on, I don't know,
fun stuff,
hookers or something.
Hookers and blackjack.
Hookers and blackjack.
They're gonna make their own Magic the Gathering with hookers and blackjack.
No, because then they get the Pinkertons round.
Yeah, for hookers and blackjack. It's a win all round.
Kyle Brink knocking on the door. Have you got any spare? I was in the neighborhood.
I was nearby.
I was nearby, and I just heard there were hookers and blackjack here.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that is cool. That is really cool for
whoever found that.
Whoever
it is. Captain Anonymous, we shall call them.
Captain Anonymous.
Captain Anonymous. Congratulations.
So I do have a question for you.
Interesting. I always love a question. You know this.
Because I did see this crop up, and it seemed newsworthy to me, but not enough for me to actually do any investigating into.
The best kind of news. Gotcha.
Yeah, the news that I look at and just kind of go, that seems like a Justin job. It was the new 1D&D playtest document.
Yes. I have had a little read through of it.
Good, I'm glad one of us has.
I haven't read all of it because there's 77 pages, and I only got access to it on my D&D Beyond account earlier today, so I've read it whilst working. But I I see that they did release the changes to Monk, which look pretty cool. They've addressed a few of the issues that monks had in 5e. However, they have done something in this playtest which I absolutely love, and I find it hilarious because obviously they don't want to call it 1D and D anymore, right? They just want to call it D&D, and they want to kind of get rid of the whole like 5e, 4e, 3.5. They want to get rid of all of that. There's no more versions. It's just D&D, right? That's what they're trying to do. So they don't even refer to stuff from 5e as the changes from D&D 5e. They will put in as per D&D 2014, like rulebook.
Ooh.
So they're just referring to it as the rulebook that came out in 2014. So they're not even referring to 5e as 5e. That's just the D&D rulebook from that year. And that is so cool and so clever because it's a way of kind of, yeah, that was 5e. That's what we called it then. Now it's just the D&D rulebook that existed at that time. And these are the changes we're making from it. I like it.
Honestly, I'm not invested enough in D&D.
I know you're not.
Give a shit. But I do see it a lot like, okay, so we're not going to have editions, but we're just going to call them different things.
I mean, I guess it's no different really to if you look at like video games, right? They'll release expansions, but even in those expansions, they'll release like patch notes and like patches to fix things and stuff like that. That's the way I see them kind of doing D&D now. They're not doing it as like, this is a new version of the game. They're just, when they release changes, it's just going to be a patch on the existing game. Is I think the best way of looking at it.
But saying that just reminds me of that old Only Fools and Horses episode where they're all sat around the pub and Trigger's on about how he's had the same broom for 25 years.
Yeah, I mean, he's changed the handle,
He's changed the handle 7 times in the head 4.
Yeah. It's fine.
So, yeah.
It's fine.
But, so I mean, like you said, you haven't really.
I haven't read through all of it, so I've had a little look through the bits that I was interested in picking up on. So the classes that are included in this playtest is they've got the changes for Bard, Cleric. They've made some more changes to Druid, which I did read through because those were quite a hot topic on the last playtest, if you remember.
Yeah, we agreed, and apparently no one else did.
Well, they've changed it, and I'll go through the changes again in a second. Well, not like majorly go through them, but I'll give you kind of the high-level changes that they've made. They've also included Monk, Paladin, Ranger, and Rogue in this set. And they've also got 2 new subclasses. One for Bard, which is the College of Dance, and the Circle of the Sea for the Druids, which I haven't had a chance to read through yet. So a lot of really good changes, a lot of stuff just kind of carrying over, which is to be expected, because there was a lot of stuff that just worked. But let me just scroll down to the Druid bit. So the big change that they made to the Druid was the just kind of flat stat blocks.
Yeah.
So they've changed that slightly. So it is still using B stat blocks. However, there's new rules for how you interact with those stat blocks.
Okay.
So, using Wild Shape as a bonus action for all druids now, instead of it used to just be for certain circles of druid, you would get the Wild Shape as a bonus action. For all the others, it was an action. And swim speeds are available from as soon as you get Wild Shape. So you don't have to wait until you're level 6 before you can get a swim speed animal and stuff like that. The big change to what they've done for the wild shapes is you have a certain number of animals that you can change into, rather than here is a huge list you can change into any of them.
Okay.
So at 2nd level, 3 forms, and after a long rest, you can change out one of those forms. So it's a bit like preparing your spells as a wizard. So if you know that you're going to be doing a long journey, you can have a form of being a horse, right? So then you could just be shifted as a horse and get that extra running speed and all that sort of thing. But if you know you're going into like a dungeon, a horse isn't going to be necessarily helpful to you. So you might choose different animals that are going to be better for going into that dungeon. So it's quite cool because it gives you a bit more flexibility, but you're also limited as well, so it's not as powerful as it used to be.
Yeah.
At 4th level, you get 4 forms, and at 8th level, you get a 5th form. And fly speed at 8th level.
Okay.
And those are limited to a quarter CR at 2nd level. At 4th level, it goes up to half, and at 8th level, you get 1 CR creatures, or CR1 creatures. But Circle of the Moon Druids, which were always very, very strong because of the wild shape that they had, has also changed slightly. So they still get much higher CR creatures that they can change into. The main difference is that instead of being set, it's now your druid level divided by 2, I think. Is it half? Where was it? I literally read this 5 minutes ago and I've forgotten it already. Da, da, da. I can't find it. I believe it's half your druid level rounded down. Somebody will correct me if I'm wrong on that, I'm sure. But this is the cool part. Combat Wild Shape, which is something that Circle of the Moon gets, you can now use either your AC or the Beast Form's AC, whichever is higher. So if you've got a really high AC because you're wearing all kinds of armor and stuff, and then you shift into something that normally wouldn't, you can choose to keep your AC and still be hard to hit.
Okay, yeah.
That's pretty cool. And then a bunch of other really cool things that they've included. But so far, from what I've read, I like the changes they made. Like the changes they made to Monk was my personal favorites. So the big problem that monks had, and always have had in D&D 5e in particular, was they didn't have enough key points, right? And then by the time they hit 20th level, they had too many key points. So now your key points are just equal to your monk level. So as you go up, you're getting more and more. But once per long rest, you get something called heightened metabolism, which you get at 7th level. Where if you rest for a minute, you get all the benefits of a short rest. So you just take a quick breather between fights and you get all your key points back and everything like that, and you can go again, but you can only use that once per long rest. So it kind of gives you a quick little, have a breather, get back in the fight. And I quite like that. But then after that, you would still need to take a full short rest to get anything back. But I just think that's a really cool way to let monks kind of keep up with the other classes, because how often do you go from combat straight into another combat without any kind of rest in between? Not very. So you should be able to get off that little heightened metabolism before going into the next combat, should you need to.
Yeah, it definitely sounds interesting. I'm sure you'll be keeping up to it, up to date with it, as we get closer to the release. It is about April next year, isn't it?
I believe that's the target.
That's when
yes.
they're earmarked for.
Yeah.
So, speaking of 5e adjacent, I did a thing.
Should I be worried?
No. But do you remember that when, I think it was last week, I was saying about Tales of the Valiant?
Yes.
They were offering people the opportunity to write worlds for their labyrinth.
Yes.
I may have submitted one.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's not exactly the world that I'm designing. However, what it is my original concept for that. So I came up with the idea of this world, and as I've kind of prepared more for this homebrew setting that I'm doing, I've altered it so that it kind of fits into what my needs are.
Yeah.
As a as the person running it, and the campaigns I want to run in this world. So it has It has altered, but it did stem from this idea I had. And I decided to submit it.
Well,
so
that could be a tasty bit of news in the future then.
Could be. I genuinely doubt it.
Hey,
but
you never know.
But I mean, that was it. I mean, that was kind of what was stopping me. It was me going, it's never gonna amount to anything, and that was what was stopping me. But I realised that
that's a silly stance to take.
Yeah, and it's something that I have been awarded the right to do because I've actually kickstarted this.
Yeah.
So I decided to, fuck it, give it a go.
Yeah, man.
So I have uploaded the world of Severnicium.
Okay.
And it is a modern world depleted of resources, found an alternative deep below the surface. A seemingly unlimited source of arcane power which fueled the renaissance of the population. Hundreds of peaceful and prosperous years later, it was discovered that this energy was, in fact, the magical prison holding a great evil. With the walls weakened, this entity escaped, decimating almost all life on the planet. The pantheon of gods who watched over this realm could not help, as they were slaughtered by the being they had imprisoned eons ago. Somehow, however, the world did not end. Two halves of this broken planet together remain in an endless cosmic dance, separated by what is known only as the chasm. Few have ventured down, none have returned. Only evil, twisted creatures emerge from the chasm, and no one knows why the world still holds together, and perhaps no one ever will. Hundreds of years have passed and the landscape has changed. Remnants of past technologically advanced civilizations remain, whilst the few survivors, humans, dwarves, elves, and halflings, have began to repopulate where they can. It is a dark, godless existence in which no one truly knows why they were spared from complete and utter destruction.
Oh, I like that though, dude. You say you don't think you've got it. I think that's a great fucking world. I'd play in that world.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I'm my own worst critic, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, absolutely you are. But dude, that sounds amazing. I would absolutely play that.
So anyway, I will keep you posted.
Yes, please do.
Again, I don't exactly have high hopes, but if anything is to come from it, you guys will be the first to know.
Yeah, I look forward to it.
So, we have this year's Origins Award winners.
We do indeed.
But there's obviously Origins kind of caters for a lot of the sort of nerdverse. So only a small portion of it relates to tabletop RPGs. But the winners in the RPG sort of sections of it are Coyote and Crow.
Yes.
Which we've mentioned previously.
And it looked very awesome.
Yeah, I think that... Did we ever add that to the list?
We didn't, because I think there was a reason we didn't. Oh, because we added in the rule of things that we're absolutely, definitely 100% going to buy.
Yeah,
we weren't 100% absolutely, definitely going to buy it yet.
This is now like 2 awards in.
Yeah, I think we probably should definitely absolutely 100% buy it.
Correction, it's 1 award and 1 nomination. 1 finalist, but even so, man.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So, yeah, Coyote and Crow won for ROG Core Rules. Agents of June by Modiphius Entertainment won for the RPG supplement. And Pathfinder Savage Worlds box set for their graphic design. So, congratulations to those winners. Yes. And Coyote and Crow, we are coming for you.
We are going to put that on the list in the near future, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm going to add that now. Payday is coming up.
So, I mean, we have also, in speaking of, awards, because obviously awards for things are normally firsts. I think this would classify as a first in the world of video games anyway. That a video game is changing its release date forwards.
Fuck off.
I wish I was kidding. I don't actually. I'm very happy about this. So, well, forwards and backwards. I'll clarify that now. So, the D&D video game Baldur's Gate 3, right? They have tweaked their release dates slightly because the PS5 version, they want to spend a bit more time mastering it for the getting that port over perfect, so that it works properly and there's no issues or anything like that. So they've pushed the PS5 release date back to September 6th. However, the PC release date has been pulled forward by almost a month. So originally, both versions were meant to release on August 31st. The PC version is now going to be released on August 3rd. So that's pretty cool. And
well, I mean,
definitely a first.
Yeah, it's... I suppose it does make sense.
Yeah, and I like as well that rather than just pushing both back, like the PC version's ready, so let's release it. And then we can focus solely on the PS5 version, right?
But it is also an opportunity to see if there's anything with the release
that they can patch,
that they need to mend.
Exactly that. And I think it's, I mean, well, the game's been out in early release for quite some time already. So it's been in early access on PC for over 2 years already. So they've been getting a lot of feedback from, the player base on things up till now anyway. And they've obviously taken that all on board because feedback's been really good on it. So yeah, and one of the things that they've actually said is they've always been a studio that aims to release on as many platforms as possible in order of readiness. Reaching a technical bar that matches our design ambitions felt like the right move, while holding back the PC version when we knew we'd be ready felt like the wrong move in such a busy launch period. And I think that's a really, really good way of looking at it, right? PC version's ready, let's put it out, and we'll release the PS5 version as soon as it's ready. Perfect.
Yeah, I mean, if there's a market that's already clamoring for it, exactly, and you don't have anything impeding you from release, then they'd be silly not to.
Exactly.
But yeah, fair play. I'm assuming you're going to be investing.
Absolutely, I'll be buying it. Purely based on this, right? So ahead of the launch, the company that's developing it, Larian Studios, have released some fun little informational tidbits about how big the game is. Its script spans more than 2 million words. That is over 3 times the length of all 3 Lord of the Rings books combined. And it has over 170 hours of cutscenes. It's a huge
impressive
game.
That is impressive. Although, is it like a Metal Gear Solid 7.5 hours of cutscenes where you don't quite get to fucking play?
Well, I don't know. I mean, if they've got that much content, I would think that there's and I mean, based on previous Baldur's Gate games, because I have played a few in the past, they are very open worldy, which might explain why they've got so many cutscenes. Because with it being so open worldy, you can go and do so many different things. You need to prep for. It's basically they've written a huge adventure path, and they've tried to think of everything that we could do as players, and it's our job as players to prove them wrong. So my advice to all of you, buy the game, prove them wrong, find something they didn't think of.
I've never played any of the Baldur's Gate games, but
they're really good.
Apparently, and I may be wrong in saying this, the Pathfinder, Kingmaker and Wrath of the Righteous games were heavily inspired by them. So if there are anything like that, then yeah, it could be really interesting.
I mean, I played the original Baldur's Gate back when it first came out many moons ago when I was younger, back in 1998. I played that one when it first came out because I was really into my action RPGs and stuff back then. So I was playing a lot of Diablo and stuff like that, and it was an awesome game. I really enjoyed it. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing what they are capable of doing now.
Well, definitely keep us updated.
I shall.
Okay, so also big news this past week. The Pathfinder. They say Pathfinder Maker, but let's ignore that. The Orc license has been released. It is out in the wild. It is now ready to be used.
It's finished.
It is finished. So that is a huge step.
It is.
And
I
obviously,
wish I was more legally inclined so I could actually have a valid.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of these things. It's like, this is awesome. I really want to know what this is going. From what I gather, a lot of the comments have been, "This is what the OGL should have been," or "This is what the OGL was in spirit."
Yeah.
It just happened to turn out that no, it wasn't. So yeah, it's definitely quite a momentous occasion. As per everything, you're going to get people who, which is a weird reaction to have on a license which is optional to use. When people are going, "Oh yeah, it sucks and it's dead in the water," it's like, yeah, does it matter to you?
Yeah, but I think that's just it's the reaction the other way, isn't it? From the people that are more on the Wizards side than even I am, right? Where they're just like, "Oh no, this is just no good because it's not Wizards," right? You're always going to get people like that. It's something that doesn't affect them in any way, shape, or form. I mean, we even had it with the OGL as well. There were people that don't even create homebrew content that were getting upset about the rules about homebrew content. So it doesn't affect you. You don't make homebrew content. It's the same argument could be had for that as well, and like, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that what they had for homebrew content was right. I'm just going to clarify that now. It was wrong. It was absolutely wrong.
So you heard it here, folks. You heard it here first, folks. Justin 100 supported Wizards of the Coast destroying the hobby.
But it's one of those things where people I see it all the time as well. I play a lot of old school RuneScape, right? And one of the things that happens a lot in that is any content that gets added to the game goes through a polling system in the game, right? So all the players vote on whether stuff should or shouldn't be built and introduced to the game. Any content that comes into the polls based around PvP immediately gets downvoted by everybody that doesn't do PvP.
Really?
Purely based on, they believe, and it's just not true, because like Jagex have said this numerous times, they believe that if PvP stuff gets put through the polls, it's going to take away resources from developing the PvE elements of the game, which means the rest of the game will suffer. People make up all kinds of logic to justify their position on something. Is the point of that story.
Yeah, but that is true. I mean, you don't only see it in this media, you see
everywhere.
it in everywhere. People justify the weirdest fucking stances.
Yeah, some people getting upset about the interpretation of like a comic book character in another medium. It's like, that's not how that character should be. It's like, it's a fictional character. They can do whatever they want with it. That's the whole point of a fictional character.
Oh yeah, and let's just say there is a certain political inclination that seem to be more adverse to certain changes.
Yeah, that's where we'll leave that one, I think.
Are you afraid I might say something to offend a few people?
Absolutely.
Because I will. But it does kind of lead me into the next thing I wanted to bring up. And these are two things that I saw but independently, but they do kind of tie into one another. And the first one was, it's not news, it is just an article that someone posted on Dicebreaker, right? And it was in this sort of day and age, in this sort of climate, in this sort of wave of change of cultural sensibility even that we're seeing, that it is important to have cultural consultants in this industry. So in a nutshell, a cultural consultant would be somebody who you paid to basically go over the work that you are wanting to produce, that you are wanting to put out into the world, to see if there's anything problematic, to see if there's anything that can be construed as problematic, that can be that can upset people, and it would be their job to act as editors in that respect, to kind of go, no, you shouldn't really do that. Which then led me to another article that I found, like, just, when was it? It was yesterday, I think, on Mastodon. Someone posted another article which kind of led into that, and it shared a philosophy, but at the same time it kind of went a bit further, and that would be sensitivity readers.
Yeah.
All right, and the two things, they kind of would work hand in hand, where you'd have like the cultural consultant to kind of give things an overview of kind of going, right, that may be problematic, that may not be, that, you know, this heritage that you've included has some severely racial overtones that you may not want to put into your science fantasy book. Wizards of the Coast. And you may need to look into that. Whereas sensitivity readers would be people who were specialized in a particular topic.
Yeah.
So, like, the example that they use here is, like, for example, if you are wanting to write something in which you have zero experience whatsoever, you get a sensitivity reader in to kind of advise you.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, just to put it down in its simplest form, if you are a man who is trying to write things from a women's perspective, get a woman to take a second look.
Yeah.
And that can work for all types of things, all types of people, and all types of things that people in their actual lives have experienced. If you have not had experience in a certain matter, then get a second opinion.
Yeah, I think that is exactly, like, you hit the nail on the head there. Like, it's one of those things that, and I think it doesn't just work for this space either, right? It's pretty much anything. If you've never experienced something, you don't truly understand what that is, right? You don't understand that, and you can do your best to, like, empathize or see a particular way of thinking or anything like that, but you'll never truly understand it because you can't. It's one of those things where it's anything until you've actually experienced something, you will never understand that experience, right?
Exactly.
And I think that is actually something really, really cool that companies are now recognizing that, and that these kind of positions have actually started to become commonplace, or a lot more commonplace, I should say. They're not commonplace yet, but they're getting there.
They are, and it makes sense from a business perspective.
Yeah.
You Absolutely. Know, like for example, the problems that Spelljammer had, right? Now, I don't believe for a second that any of what was published was intentional.
Oh.
It was short-sightedness.
Yeah.
It was not having the right set of eyes on the product before you made it public. And yes, this will incur an additional production cost.
Yeah, absolutely.
But at the same time, how much would Wizards have had to pay?
Well, yeah,
to rectify the mistake after publishing?
It's exactly that. I mean, it's one of those things, right, where it's something that I've always learned when it comes to business, and that is, if you can pay for something to not be a problem later, it will always be cheaper than paying for it when it's a problem.
Yeah, I mean, what's the phrase in, or what's the in English? It's penny wise, pound foolish, where you do something to save money,
Yeah.
but in the
It
long
costs you
run,
more.
it's going to
Exactly
cost you
that.
more.
Yeah.
And if you are a producer, if you are a in our space, a tabletop role playing game developer, then yeah, fork out the extra however much it may cost
Yeah.
to hire a few people.
Just
Get
give
a
it a once
cultural
over. Make sure that you're not doing anything that's going to come back to bite you in the ass.
get a cultural consultant in, let them take a look at it,
Mhm.
and then kind of go, yeah, you may need to bring an additional person in to take a look at this, for
Yeah.
example, or that, and just have that sort of forethought
Yeah.
into covering your bases, because
And the thing
now.
is, well, right, is it could honestly be something as well, like what you were saying with the with the Spelljammer stuff, where it's not even something that you might have realized could be problematic, right? You could have just put something in as a something you thought would be a fun little tidbit to give some flavor, but to somebody from that has been in that space, right? It's a huge trigger that brings up a lot of stuff for them, and having somebody just give it that one time and go, oh, actually tweak this slightly. It just saves you so much hassle.
Yeah, and it makes sense. I mean, you've now got people who have voices who haven't had voices previously. Yeah. And they're not afraid to use them, and that's what I love about this age. People get called out on their bullshit all the time. I'm surprised I haven't, to be fair.
No, because
but,
I'll tell you why you haven't been called out on your bullshit. Because with you, it's not bullshit.
I don't know. Maybe some people would beg to differ. I don't want to proclaim anything that may not be true. But yeah, we're living in a different age now. We're living in a better age than we have done previously. And these things are important. And these sort of things, these sort of elements that previously have been kind of brushed away, now get, held accountable.
And I mean, that's the thing as well. It's not even like it's, that they're going to come in and say, you cannot talk about this, right? Because there is still a way to talk about sensitive subjects and have them in your content and in your systems, stuff like that. You've just got to handle them correctly, right? Because that is, I think, an important definition to make as well, right? Is these people aren't just going to come in and say, get rid of that, get rid of that, get rid of that, get rid of that. What they'll do is they're going to work with you to make it not be what's the word I'm looking for here? They're basically going to work with you to make sure that it is handled delicately and handled in a way that is respectful.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to make that definition there, because I know a lot of people would look at something like that and then go, oh, this world's gone to snowflakes everywhere, blah, blah. Like, that's not what it is, right? It's just being respectful of people's lives.
Exactly.
And there's a way to still talk about these things and still be respectful. And that's the important part.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, and I don't want it to seem like we're bagging on these companies. Except for Wizards of the Coast, I'll bag on them all day long. But these companies, Wizards of the Coast included, have had missteps. Paizo has had missteps, and they have made efforts to correct those missteps. I think the one that springs to mind for me was Pathfinder and the slavery issue.
Yeah.
And it was, I think what kicked it off was one tweet from one guy who went, hey Paizo, love your stuff,
the fuck,
but you've got a slavery problem.
Yeah.
And that was enough to kind of get people talking.
Yeah.
and for Paizo to kind of go, shit. Okay, so from now on, any published materials will not feature this topic in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
We apologize. There are things that have been published. There are things that are going to be published that are imminently released, where it's a bit late to change that.
Yeah.
But we are making a commitment that from this day forward, any new products that we develop will not contain any topic of slavery.
Yeah, and it's exactly this kind of thing that would be avoided if they had just kind of gone, well, let's give somebody to give this a once over.
Yeah, exactly. Had there been somebody in place at the time to kind of go,
which I'm sure they have,
guys, I've read about 7 of your books, and there seems to be an over.
There seems to be a bit of a trend here, guys. Is there something you want to tell me? Like, am I not getting a paycheck at the end of the month, or?
And oddly enough, they're unionized.
Funny that.
But yeah, it is hugely important, and we can't profess to know everything.
Nope.
So get people who do know more than you involved.
Yeah.
Lean on the people who've got more experience in certain matters, who've got a better critical eye, who are a third party to your company, who will do, make their decisions without bias, and, do things right first time around.
Yeah.
Or at least aim to.
Yeah.
Because I don't think this is going to solve all problems.
No, of course not. I mean, there's always going to be something that gets missed, or something that at the time of writing wasn't problematic, but later on becomes problematic. I mean, we've seen that a lot with, a lot of popular culture stuff from the 80s, the 70s, 60s. The further you go back, the more and more of it there is, because at the time there was nothing culturally wrong with what they did. But as time progresses, things change, right? And I think that's also an important thing to...
Just want to slightly correct you on saying, yes, there was something culturally wrong.
No.
But the climate wasn't too...
No. So there was something wrong with what they were doing, but culturally it wasn't seen as wrong. Just to make that's... Yeah. Thank you for clarifying that. Yeah.
No. I mean, have you seen Friends lately?
Yes.
The amount of shit in that program, because I mean, I think we're all guilty of. Oh, I just need to chuck something on for background.
Yeah, I mean, I do it all the time. I do it while I'm working.
Friends is one, Big Bang Theory is another, and you see all these shows which aren't necessarily that old.
You say that, dude. But, Friends was over 30 years ago now.
Yeah. Okay.
Friends is 30 years old, my dude.
10 years ago was the 90s, dude.
No, it wasn't. That's the depressing part.
But yeah, you watch these things and you just see these odd episodes, and it's like, oof.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be things that haven't aged well, and it's. I think the important thing is being able to change with the times, right? So if you've put out something that at the moment is not seen as wrong culturally, when it very well might be, and it's just we need another cultural shift, right? When that shift happens, make the shift. Now, does that mean doing what Paizo did and just blanket saying we're removing all mention of that at all ever from our content? I don't always think that's the right way to go, because that kind of those kind of things did still happen, right? They are a real thing. I think they just need to be handled properly.
I like the way Vessen kind of dealt with it. You read the Vessen core rulebook, and Vessen is a game that is set in Sweden I think it's like late 1800s,
Yes,
early
I think we mentioned
1900s
it
sort
last
of thing.
week. I think we were talking about there was modern
And
rules for it or something.
oh yeah, there is. I'm looking forward to
Yeah.
that. But in the current setting, they've actually have a paragraph where it kind of states, we recognize that the time frame in which this is set was problematic, to say the least, where certain attitudes towards race, towards gender, sexuality were wrong.
Yeah.
This does not exist in our world. It was like, this does not exist. This is a fantasy game.
Yeah.
So this is the fantasy that we live in. And I thought it's a bold move, but a fucking good
Yeah,
one.
and that's the thing, right? Is I think that is something as well that people do need to perhaps consider when looking at some of this stuff is it trying to be insensitive, or is it just reflecting a world that could exist somewhere? Because a lot of the games that we're playing are fantasy worlds that don't actually physically exist anywhere apart from in your mind. So there is always that question as well of, is it maybe something that you are bringing to it that isn't actually there? Because I know that's something I do quite often. If I look at something that I've gotten a strong opinion about, I find it very difficult to see past that opinion when I'm reading it, right?
Yeah.
And that's just human nature. Once you've got an opinion on something, it's very difficult to break that opinion. Very few people are capable of looking at something, realizing they're wrong, going, well, shit, I was wrong. And, I have insane respect to people who could do that. I struggle with it myself. But there are people out there who can, and like I said, mad respect to them. But there is also an element of, I think, to a degree, people may also have to look at things, as long as it's not directly being insensitive, right? If it is just a genuine, this is something that happened in that world, it's not always necessarily problematic.
No, it isn't. But it's not on the individual to kind of make that call. It becomes problematic when a certain group of people turn around and kind of go, yeah, you see this?
Yeah.
Wrong. And that's when you have to pivot.
No, absolutely. Yeah.
And I've done it in my personal life. There are things that I'm a lot more considerate of now than I was when I was younger. Massively. And I think that's an important thing to have. And I do agree with you that not everybody has that ability.
Yes.
I thankfully do.
Lucky bastard.
I'm quite proud of being able to say, I can read up on something and kind of go, oh shit, okay, right. That's changed my opinion on certain things.
Except for wizards, right?
See, that's always going to be a point of contention.
Every time you're like, so I can change my opinion, I'm just going to be like, wizards, and then just move on.
Okay, so I can change my opinion on everything except for
there we go. That's the distinction I was looking for.
That's where I draw the line. It's like, no, you are wrong. These people are wrong.
Oh. All right, let's lighten things up. Let's head over to the couch.
Let's head over to the couch. Now, here's the question. Do you want to go first, or should I?
No, you go first. I want to keep the power as long as I can.
Okay, you enjoy.
I will.
You enjoy. You enjoy me.
Sweating.
I shall. I really should have loaded this up preemptively.
Well, okay. If you haven't loaded it up, then I'll go first because I've already got it up. I was prepared for a change.
Oh no, because I've got an app for it. I'll let you keep the power. Right. We'll just vamp for the minute it's going to take me to bring up.
Oh.
Okay, so couch once again. He has written in from a more wretched hive of scum and villainy than you've found before. And Couch has asked, when running a long campaign over 6 months as a time frame, when is the make or break point? For example, drop off from non-interest, schedule clashes, commitments. How do you combat this? What are your thoughts on that?
I personally don't think there is a cut-off time. It's one of those things for me where you can lose interest and investment in something at any point. That might just be me. I am quite odd with that sort of thing, but that could just be my ADHD brain. So for me, it's something that I need to be invested in an element that is running throughout. If that element goes, I lose interest in the whole thing. And it sucks. I hate it, but that's the way my brain works, unfortunately. So personally, for me, there is no cutoff. I could get bored of it a week in. I could get bored of it 6 months in. So I'm probably not the best person to ask on this one because this is the way my brain works.
Fair enough. I think early on you can start seeing signs of people's interest and people's sort of willingness to sort of partake. Yeah. For me, I think once I get to a point where I'm chasing players, that's when I get the hint and just kind of go, yeah, they're not interested. You know, my current group, if we don't play for a week, I will start getting messages.
Yeah.
From people going, right, so when we're playing next sort of thing. That for me is a good indicator that, oh yeah, they're invested. You know, they want this to carry on. But if week in, week out, I'm the one kind of going, hey guys, I want to run a game this day. Are you guys going to jump in? Are you guys going to... if I'm the one that's always kind of chasing players around, that is when I lose interest as well. Because I've got a lot to do. You know, I've got a world to present. I've got combats to ready. I've got all these things to do. And, you know, being in charge of scheduling isn't really down to me.
Yeah, I think that the scheduling one is always the tricky one because especially as you get older, you get more and more responsibilities, things start getting in the way. I mean, like our game, for example, that I play in with our friend Chris, he runs that game struggled for a long time to get any kind of regular sessions because he used to work nights sometimes, right? And so depending on his shift patterns would depend on whether he was available, and then depending on like my childcare pattern would depend on whether I was available, depending on some of the other players' childcare patterns. Like, you know, once people start getting kids and once all that kind of thing comes into the mix, scheduling becomes very, very difficult. I mean, Couch himself, I mean, we've wanted to have him on the show since pretty much day one, but it's trying to schedule it because of his work, right? Because he works every fucking hour under the sun. I literally see him 99% of the time at work, and he lives across the road from me. I see him more at his work than I do anywhere else. So I think that's where scheduling kind of becomes at the whim of the group. And that's where I think what Chris has done that I think is quite good is he's expanded the pool of players that he's got in the campaign so that should two people not be able to make it, we can still run. And then it's only if there's a bigger failure of attendance, really, that we don't have enough people to actually run the group, right? So that's one way of combating the scheduling issue is just expand the player pool. Because you're always going to have like a core group that are there every single week, no matter what. Because, you know, they're young still and don't have responsibilities. Sorry, that's harsh. They probably do have responsibilities. I'm just being bitter because I can't always play.
They've got their Nintendos and their hippity hop.
They've got their Nintendo Switches and their hippity hop. Actually, I listen to hip hop. I can't say that. Hip hop's good music. I'm not going to make that joke either. But yeah, I think scheduling comes down more to trying to find a way that you can make it work for as many people as possible. And then the players who are a bit more flaky because of commitments can dip in and out as necessary. You just have to make sure that you have a catch up with them before they do dip back in, rather than having that catch up during the session, because that can frustrate people.
I also did the larger player pool thing as well, and the main reason that most of my games went online was because the gaming group that kind of ended up coming together, we were all in the same industry, myself included, and we were all essentially doing shift work where it's like, okay, yeah, this week I've got Wednesday off, next week I'll have Saturday off, and there was no way of organizing everyone together. So what I decided to do was, right, I'm going to run an AP, we're going to run it online, I'm going to have everything ready, and the moment 3 or 4 of us are online, it's like, right, let's jump on for a few hours. And that's how it began. The way it's translated now, that 1, 2, 3, 4 of us have kind of moved off into different industries where we do have more regular patterns. So it's kind of come to, okay, we're going to play every Monday and every Wednesday now. And if those people that still have these very strange, sporadic sort of rotas can't make it, then we'll just carry on without them. And so, I think I'm definitely contemplating a limited return to face-to-face play. So that's going to be when I run my Delta Green campaign. I'm thinking of doing that.
In person.
So it is something to scheduling is always going to be a problem. It's for this hobby. In terms of a time frame, I think if you hit 6 months in a game, you're in. I think once you kind of hit the 6 month mark, you're definitely in. I think you'll be able to tell after a month whether it's got any legs.
I think what you said earlier as well is absolutely spot on. Like, if your players are constantly chasing you for the next session, they're definitely invested, right? If you're the one constantly chasing them, not so much. And maybe it's worth having a chat with them about it, right? Because it could just be that because you're messaging them, they don't feel the need to message you. That's always, that is a possibility. Because if you're messaging them on Monday and they were going to message you on Tuesday, you've already messaged them. They don't need to message you, right? So it's something to look at. But I definitely think if you're having to chase the players to organize a session, it's a good indicator that maybe they're not fully feeling it yet. And might be worth having a conversation about any tweaks that you could make to get them a bit more invested. Personally, for myself, I tend not to message my GM at all about the game because I like to keep the game in its own little bubble in my head. Because, again, the way my ADHD brain works, if I get too invested in something, I go down a rabbit hole and then I burn myself out on it. So I like to kind of, I very much compartmentalize. That's a really hard word to say for some reason. Those kind of elements in my life, because I don't want to go down that rabbit hole and burn myself out. Because I really enjoy the game.
That's also fair. I mean, for me, I'll probably message somebody a couple of times. Okay, we're playing tonight. If you want to join, fair enough. After that, it's I stop.
And I mean, I've been on the receiving end of that, right? Because I've been in a couple of your games where, I really enjoyed the game stuff, but it just wasn't for me, or the scheduling didn't work for me. And you would hit me up a couple of times, and then you would just kind of stop messaging me because I wasn't partaking, and you could kind of feel that maybe I wasn't feeling it, or maybe I just didn't have the time, and you didn't want to push, and I kind of respect that. So that's why I didn't, be like, oh, stop inviting me. It's like, because I wasn't coming. Like, I knew why you weren't inviting me anymore. I'd stopped coming.
I mean, I think it is important to kind of state that it's a no hard
Yeah,
feelings
no, of course, yeah,
scenario.
and I
Where
know
it's
that
like,
as well, right? Which
okay,
is
fair
why
enough.
I've never had any hard feelings about you, like with that 2E game where I'm still an NPC in the game, right? Which they slap every time they see him. I love that.
They haven't done that
Have
for
they
a
not?
while.
Is it? Do you think it's because they bumped into me in town and they feel bad now because they put a face to the name?
Possibly.
Because if that's the case,
they did it for a bit,
then keep slapping me because I liked it.
You heard it here first, folks. Justin likes getting slapped.
Oh my gosh, I knew you were going to do that the minute I said it as well. But yeah, it's one of those things where I think as long as everybody's adult about it, there never needs to be an issue in regards to somebody just not feeling a game, because people have preferences and it might just not be their preference, right? I've had games where that's the case.
Yeah, I mean, there's, like everything, you can always kind of boil it down to a transactional nature. I am quote unquote selling you an experience,
and I might not want that experience.
Exactly. If what I am providing doesn't meet your expectations as a player, then it's perfectly fine to kind of go, you know what, I'm going to move on. And again, it doesn't have to be adversarial. There are countless sort of posts on these Facebook groups that I tend to stalk. Yes. I never really interact, but a lot of them are due to this. Oh, this player, and they haven't showed up, and it's just be an adult and fucking talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, the one that I see all the time on those sorts of posts is, I've got one player that just, at my table, they just sit on their phone constantly. It's like, okay, have you spoken to them? No. Maybe try that.
Instead of speaking to random people
don't know what's going on, because we're not in that dude's head. Do you know who is in that dude's head? That dude.
Where they're just gonna go, kick him out of the group.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing, right? That is like the go-to response of like everyone on those pages, it seems. Is, I've got this player that I've got a problem with. Kick him out. Why? He might be a really good player. Maybe he's just, like myself, right? I mean, you know this for a fact because you've been at tables with me. I spend a lot of time on my phone when I'm playing D&D, but it's because of the way my brain works. So, again, because of the, I mentioned it earlier, the ADHD elements of how I function on the daily. One of them is I need to be constantly fidgeting and doing stuff. So even now while I'm recording, right, I've got a bit of plastic from my 3D printer in one hand and a pen that I'm spinning in the other.
Oh, thank Christ you said that. I'm masturbating.
Yeah, I mean, why not? But no, like I've got to constantly be doing stuff with my hands. So when I'm, sitting at the table playing, I'm either rolling dice, which I know annoys people sometimes because you've got that constant thunk, thunk, click, clack going on next to you when you're trying to concentrate or something like that. So I try to limit that, like random rolling of dice. So sometimes I will just sit on my phone. And I know that to some people it's very rude, but I'm still able to take in everything that's happening around me. So when it gets round to me, I'm not sitting there going, huh, what? What's going on? Huh? What? And I think that's the difference. Like if the player's still paying attention to what's going on, but they have their phone in their hand or something like that, then it's not the end of the world, right? It's when because I've had players in a group where they're sitting on their phone the whole time and it gets round to them and then you go, what are you doing? And they're like, huh? What? What's going on? What? Everyone's just attacking it? I'll just attack it then. Like they're just not paying attention. And that's where you might have somebody who's not invested.
No, yeah, that is that's a dead giveaway. When somebody's turn comes around and their question is, "Oh, what's going on?" It's like, oh, for fuck's sake. But as a GM, you need to be able to curtail that as well. You need to be able to kind of go, I need you to pay attention.
Yeah. And again, it comes back to
do whatever you need to do. But just I need you to pay attention.
Put on your big boy pants and have the conversation.
It's weird that we are giving people advice on.
I know.
I feel dirty, and not in the good way.
It's funny.
Ah, is
It
it though?
is. It's funny for me.
I find it sad.
But I'm going to relinquish my power now, and I think it's. I think we've answered Couch's question pretty well there. I think we've covered it all.
I think
So
we have.
we shall
Okay,
move on
so
to the question that John knows nothing about for a change.
you can ask me the question from the
I
betrayer.
can and I will. So
Are you gonna give me? Are you gonna give me a name?
there
at
is a name
least?
on here. So this question comes from sci-fi, from the place where the kobolds quake in fear.
How the fuck did he just message? How did he manage to just message? Facebook.
He has sent me a message on Facebook Messenger. The
Nice.
message reads, "Hi, still Justin. Just playing in John's game at the lodge this afternoon and had a blast." So there you go, some praise for you there. He had a blast. Was talking to him beforehand about submitting a question to the podcast. Keep up the good work. Thank you for that. He thought it would be a good idea to turn the tables on you and submit the question to me. And here is his question. As per your reputation for being a brutal GM, what advice would you give a GM that wants to spice up their games with a few fatalities? I like this question.
Oh wow. Okay.
Now, I actually have some thoughts on this because it's something that I've been thinking about a lot, because I've had very few fatalities in my games. And I feel like it's bred a culture of people that play in my games to not be overly invested in the combats because they don't feel there's any repercussions, right? Well, not just the combats, just situations in general. There's not any repercussions. And I think that would be my first thing, is make sure there are repercussions for their actions.
Yeah, you are very correct on that. I think because I went a long time before I killed a character. A long time.
Respectfully disagree.
Yeah, dude, like a long time in my GMing experience.
Didn't you kill like no the Skulls and Shackles campaign? You killed a character in like session 3.
Who the fuck did I kill?
Sure you killed somebody.
No, I'm not entirely sure I did. But anyway,
we digress.
If we go down that rabbit hole, we're gonna
That's
be
a dangerous rabbit hole.
Sat here for an hour.
We're gonna be ringing Scott.
Sat here for an hour, kind of just going, yeah. Let's fucking get Scott. Where are you? What I did, and I still kind of need to do a bit more, is I removed the training wheels. Because at the end of the day, a lot of times, I'm actually going to start that again. There are people out there who make it their mission to kill characters. Yes. And it is easily done. You know, you are a GM, you hold the power, you can kill any character at any point. Now, I don't like playing like that. I've got no interest in playing like that. However, what I stopped doing was saving them.
Yes.
So when things went wrong, because, you know, things can go wrong because of bad decisions, because of bad dice rolls, because of good dice rolls from my part, I've just happened to use really good tactics that have caught people unaware. And a lot of times what I used to do is I used to give people more and more chances to survive. You know, I'd go from focusing on one character, oh, now this creature's gonna, and I'd roll a dice to see which character this creature attacked and all this. And I kind of stopped doing that to a certain degree. I stopped, you know, using the Deus Ex Machina way of saving people's characters. Essentially, it was, okay, training wheels are off, and now let the dice lay where they fall.
Yeah. And I think as well, something else you touched on there as well is having the enemies kind of move away from people just because they've downed them or something like that. I think another thing to keep in mind when you are DMing is these creatures and characters that you're playing are meant to be real creatures and characters, right? they're not just an NPC in a video game, right? That's like programmed by AI. They are meant to be living, breathing things for the most part. Obviously, some of them are like statues or whatever, but you get my point. So
Yeah,
treat them as such, right? If you're throwing a group of kobolds at your players, right? Kobolds are never going to win a fight straight up. They know that. So how would a group of creatures that want to win this fight because they want to survive, how would they overcome that? Well, they're going to be smart about it, right? They're going to leave traps, or they're going to just flood them with numbers to overwhelm them. They're going to find a way to survive. Now, I wouldn't say just flood them with numbers, because that's a really shitty way to die as a player from experience. But finding something like, oh, well, these kobolds are going to fight in a way that makes it easier for them to win by fighting in a cave that they know, so they know the lay of the land. They're going to use that lay of the land to their advantage, right? They're going to have maybe traps prepared, or just other things that are going to help them to win this encounter that they're about to have. And that's a big one for me. That when I started treating the NPCs as like living, breathing entities, it introduces a lot more risk and stuff to actions that players are having. Because again, that interaction in the tavern where they start being really shitty to the bar staff, that's going to have repercussions in real life, right? If I walk down to a pub and I start talking shit to the girl behind the bar, the regulars are going to kick the shit out of me. So why do we
yeah.
not put that in our games?
Yeah, I mean, and that's the other thing, that revolves the world revolves regardless of the players
Yes.
or not. What they do has an effect. Everything they do has an effect. And another thing I've started doing is I've stopped warning
Yeah.
players. At least try to. I still do on occasion, but a lot of times, if they want to do something which is going to be massively detrimental, a lot of times I'll just let
Yeah.
them do it. But then there will be repercussions because of it, and they're repercussions that they're going to have to deal with. And like you were saying, with creatures, I try play them as organically as
Yeah.
possible. If there are a group of people who are attacking you, one of them is the biggest and the strongest, well, these creatures, even if they're animalistic in nature, they are going to have some form of
Yeah.
tactic. Where it's like, he's the biggest, right? 4 of us are going to attack
Yeah.
that one. Whereas we're going to try pick off the small, or maybe even pick off the smaller looking ones first. If they're dealing with an NPC, especially if it's an NPC caster, he's going to point out, oh, that person may have healing abilities. Let's target
exactly.
them. And it's just about using every combat organically. And seeing the foes that are being encountered, and just kind of going, right, what would these realistically do? And the example that first springs to mind is moving on after knocking a player out.
Yeah.
Not all creatures would do that.
No, I mean, I think for the most part as well, most of them wouldn't.
No.
It's like leaving somebody on the floor who's unconscious is inherently something that you would do if you had that little element in your conscience that says that's a bad thing, don't do that. Whereas if you're trying to survive, you don't want to risk that guy getting back up. You end him there and then before you move on. Because especially in a world where healing exists, right? At the snap of a finger, somebody can get back up. They know this. This is not like unknown knowledge to things in this world, right? Because the magic isn't just it exists. It's well known. Unless you're playing like a low magic world, right? That's a different kind of fish. But for the most part, in like D&D and Pathfinder and those high fantasy magic worlds, or even in the sci-fi worlds, there's a lot of them that have like some kind of healing element because it's important to these kind of games to have one. Because let's be honest, if you don't, then you have a game like Stars Without Number, and you die every 5 seconds if you get into combat.
Yeah.
Which again is another way of doing it, making combat very realistic. You get into combat, you're going to die.
Yeah, I mean,
so yeah, I think it's definitely just to me making them living, breathing entities and treating them as things that want to survive is a good way.
I think for me, it all boils down to, can I justify this character's death?
Yeah.
You know, can I look back on the combat and kind of go, yeah, there is no other way that could have gone. You know, I have been accused of stacking the forces against them, but then my justification was, right, you guys decided to go in through a front door and face combat after combat after combat.
You kicked down the front door screaming, "We're here!" What do you think was going to happen?
Yeah. When there was a side door which would have let you bypass a lot of that. You know, and I'm not going to move things about. I set these things up, and, you know, if they want to go in guns blazing, proverbially speaking, then it's going to be a hard time. Don't get me wrong, trying to stealth into a certain position, that's also going to be difficult, but
it's a lot less risky.
It's going to be difficult in a different way, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, in Rise of the Rune Lords, there was this area where it had like 3 underground floors, and somehow they managed to find the big bad boss in their first venture down. Realized, oh shit, we need to move. But as they moved, they went through other parts of this dungeon. And it ended up being a fucking free-for-all on the top level, where I had about 4 encounters all at once coming for them. Because I wasn't just going to have a group of, I think it was goblins at the time, just sitting around and, oh, look, there goes the guys we're facing.
We'll just stay here and wait.
It's like, no, let's go fuck them up.
And I think...
And it was still, to this day, one of the most memorable combats that has been, because it was just batshit insane. Yeah. And they managed to survive, but, you know, good dice rolls and what.
Yeah, I think, like, that is what it really boils down to, is just giving that sense of consequence. Because if everything that they do has a consequence, then when you get to that player death, it's going to feel like it was for a reason, because everything has had consequence up till that point, right? Whereas if you do just, like, you know, kill them out the blue for, you know, whatever, it's always going to feel a bit like, really? Did you have to? Because that wasn't the culture of the game at that point.
However, that being said, it is important to realize that no matter what your justification is, you will always be the bad guy. And, you know, I've come to terms with that.
Although I don't know about that. I think every character death that I've ever had, I've agreed with. Because I knew that it was a bad idea to do what I was doing. But it's exactly what the character would have done in that situation. So I didn't feel bad about it. I didn't blame the DM for it, because it was a decision I made based on the character that I'd built.
Yeah, but you make some stupid
decisions. I do make some stupid decisions. We're not here to discuss my decisions, all right? We're here to discuss this fantastic question.
No, I think it all boils down to, by all means, make things deadlier. By all means, increase the stakes. But don't cross over to
Bloodthirsty.
Being a professional character killer, because that does put a dampener on the game, and that does kind of kill people's enjoyment. People are never gonna be happy their character died. So as long as you can justify it, as long as, if ever scrutinized, you can kind of say, well, this is what happened. This is what happened. These are the decisions I made, and I stand by them. Then by all means, go for it.
Because, I mean, like, to just kind of play the other side of that as well, I've been in situations where I've been in a campaign and a player didn't die when everyone felt like they should have. And again, that eats away at the immersion a bit, because everyone at the table is going like, no, they should absolutely be dead. But they weren't, because a GM pulled a punch, right? And that can kind of also ruin it a little bit for me, because then you kind of feel like, well, now there really is no consequence, because that character should absolutely, without a doubt, be dead. And they're not. So what else can I get away with?
Well, to be honest, that was my first, that was when I was starting out GMing. That was, I pulled a lot of punches.
Well aware. I appreciate it.
But thank you for that great question, Sci-Fi.
That was an amazing question.
I'm curious though. I am curious, and I will ask him if that question was written after I downed his character during that game.
When did you down his character?
It was in the afternoon. It would have been maybe 3:30 to 4 o'clock. It was a
while after that. It was just before 7 o'clock. He sent me the question.
Oh, so this was disgruntled.
Yes. But that being said, I will say that yes, you do kill your fair share of characters, but I would say that every single one of your character deaths that I've seen was valid.
I believe so too.
Including my Delta Green one, because that one was just fucking hilarious.
we need to get back into that. But yeah, I at least can justify them. I can go over those deaths and kind of go, yeah, that made sense. And I'm not saying that players necessarily agree with me, but for my own peace of mind,
I think that's what it comes down to at the end of the day. As long as you're satisfied that it went as well as it could have, then that's fine. Because players are always going to get upset.
Yeah, but that was a fantastic question. So thank you to Sci-Fi. And thank you to Couch. And also thanks to you, Justin, for joining me. And I just want to send a massive thank you out to everyone. But first of all, Justin, why don't you tell people where they can find you on the interwebs?
So you can find me in most places as Justin Accurate TV. And of course, you can find me on our Facebook group, where you can send me a message to Wind Up John if you would like to send a question to me directly. And just going to throw that one out there because I enjoyed having that power this week. I understand why he doesn't tell me the questions ahead of time now. It is good, so
isn't it? So you can find me on most social media sites at Natural Juan. And obviously, like Justin mentioned, we do have our Facebook group. Let's keep active in that. Let's keep talking to each other. If you like what you hear, don't hesitate to leave us a review and a rating, because that's how we grow. That's how we reach more people. And that's how more people can go behind my back and ask Justin questions instead of me.
Amazing.
But yeah, I just want to say thank you to everyone for taking time out of your busy days to listen to us, and keep rolling.
Thanks a lot, guys. We'll see you guys all next time.